Have you ever set a goal, felt that spark of excitement, and thought to yourself, "This time, I'll make it happen"? But then, life happens. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and that goal you swore you'd achieve seems to slip further out of reach. It's like there's an invisible force pulling you back every time you get close. You tell yourself you're just distracted, unmotivated, or lazy. But deep down, you know it's something more, something deeper, lurking beneath the surface. It's your emotions, the hidden currents that guide every decision, every action, every hesitation. The fear of failure, the shame of not being good enough, the guilt of wanting more than you think you deserve. These emotions are quietly sabotaging your progress, whispering stories of self-doubt that trap you in a cycle of inaction. What if the very feelings that you think protect you are the ones keeping you stuck? It's time to confront this truth, because until you do, you'll never break free. Have you ever noticed how, just when you're about to take that next step toward your goal, something inexplicable pulls you back? It's as if a quiet, invisible hand is always there, pushing you to the sidelines, making you doubt yourself. You tell yourself that the world is too unpredictable, that you're not ready, or that it's just not the right time. But what if it's not the world at all? What if the true barrier is buried deep inside, locked within the walls of your own mind? We all have them, these invisible walls. And the truth is, they're built from emotions. They may seem small at first, even insignificant, like the fleeting doubt that flits through your mind or the subtle discomfort when you push yourself too hard. But don't be fooled by their subtlety. These emotions, over time, accumulate and grow stronger, forming an emotional structure that limits your every move. It starts with the little things. Maybe you remember the harsh words someone said when you were younger, those casual comments that made you feel less than, unworthy, or incapable. Or maybe it's the moments when you failed in the past, and instead of learning from them, you internalized them, carrying the weight of that failure like a badge of shame. These moments shape the architecture of your emotional landscape, building invisible walls that trap you in cycles of hesitation and fear. The emotions you try to ignore, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being seen as inadequate, are the bricks that create this structure. They push you back just when you're about to break through. You don't even notice the walls at first. But suddenly, you realize you've been circling the same goal for years, trapped by a self-imposed limitation you can't quite define. You don't need the world to hold you back. You do it to yourself. The fear of failure has become so ingrained that every attempt feels like it could end in disaster. You're afraid to even start because your mind whispers, "What if you fail again?" It's a fear so deep that it can paralyze you, leaving you stuck in a cycle of inaction, unable to break free. The worst part? You might not even know it's happening. These feelings have become so ingrained in your psyche that they operate on autopilot, quietly sabotaging you at every turn. You've tried to push past them before, haven't you? To ignore the fear, the judgment, the shame. But each time you do, those walls only seem to grow taller. You tell yourself that you should be stronger, that you should push through, yet somehow you always seem to fall back into the same patterns. The problem isn't your willpower, though. It's the emotional architecture you've built over the years. It's time to tear it down. The first step is to realize that the struggle is not external. It's not the world, or even the people around you, that are holding you back. It's the beliefs, the emotions, and the experiences buried deep within you that create these invisible barriers. They tell you that you're not enough, that you can't succeed, that failure is waiting just around the corner. But here's the thing. Those walls are built on fear, and fear is an illusion. Start questioning the beliefs that keep you stuck. What if you could build a new emotional foundation? What if, instead of fear, you built courage? Instead of shame, you built confidence? This is the beginning of understanding the emotional architecture of your life. There's a moment, just before you take the leap, when everything stops. You feel it, a tightening in your chest, a coldness that sweeps over you, a gnawing sense of doubt. In that instant, something powerful rises up within you. It's not the fear of failure. It's something deeper, something harder to name. It's a voice that tells you to hesitate, to wait, to hold back. That voice is fear. And it's not just fear of what might happen if you fail, it's the fear of what might happen if you succeed. Fear that success will change everything. Fear that people will expect more from you, demand more from you. Fear that you'll be exposed as a fraud, that you'll finally be seen for who you really are. And in those moments, fear does something insidious. It distorts your perception. It convinces you that safety lies in staying exactly where you are, trapped in the comfort of the known, no matter how small that comfort feels. But here's the truth. Fear doesn't protect you. It traps you. It convinces you that moving forward will lead to disaster, but all it's really doing is keeping you in place. It builds an invisible chain, linking you to your past failures, your past doubts, your past pain. Every time you try to move forward, that chain pulls tighter. And the longer you stay in this cycle, the more you believe its lies. Take a moment. Think back to a time when you were on the cusp of something big. Maybe it was a project, a relationship, or a dream that had been simmering for years. Remember that surge of excitement, that desire to push forward. Now, think about the instant the fear crept in. It didn't happen all at once. It began as a whisper, "What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough?" And before you knew it, those whispers became shouts, drowning out your ambition, pushing you back to the safety of the familiar. But here's the thing. That fear? It's not trying to protect you from failure. It's trying to protect you from growth. Fear wants to keep you small. It wants to keep you safe. But growth? Growth doesn't live in safety. It lives in the unknown. In the moments when you choose to face fear, to move forward in spite of it, that's where real change happens. Can you move forward when fear is constantly whispering in your ear? Can you truly make progress if you're always looking over your shoulder, wondering if fear is about to strike again? The answer lies not in fighting fear, but in choosing to move despite it, to recognize it, acknowledge it, and step forward anyway. The chain that fear has wrapped around you is strong, yes, but it's not unbreakable. The moment you choose to face it head-on is the moment you begin to loosen its grip. It starts innocently enough. A desire to do things well, a wish to be the best, to stand out, to finally achieve something meaningful. But somewhere along the way, that desire to succeed becomes something darker, something more insidious. It becomes the need to be perfect. You tell yourself that perfection is the key to success, that if you just get everything right, then you will finally feel worthy, worthy of recognition, worthy of love, worthy of your own success. But here's the painful truth. Perfection is a mask, and it's one that hides your fear of inadequacy. You've felt it, haven't you? That overwhelming need to get it all just right before you take any step forward. You wait until the stars align, until every detail is polished, every I dotted, every T crossed. But the stars never align, do they? And the more you wait, the more the feeling of not being enough grows. The irony? The harder you chase perfection, the further away it gets. Perfectionism paralyzes. It doesn't propel you toward success. It keeps you stuck, circling the same path, terrified to make the wrong move. Because in your mind, any misstep, no matter how small, is proof of your failure, proof that you're not good enough. But it's more than just fear of failure. It's fear of being seen as inadequate, of being exposed as unworthy. And so you hide behind the mask of perfection, telling yourself that if you can just finish the project, perfect the pitch, nail the presentation, then maybe, just maybe, you'll be enough. But the truth is, the pursuit of perfection isn't about striving for success. It's about avoiding your fear of inadequacy. Every time you delay, every time you tell yourself you're not ready, you're not enough, you're reinforcing the very belief that perfection is the only way to be worthy. And that belief, it's suffocating. It's a lie. How many times have you held back because you couldn't meet your own impossible standards? How many dreams have you shelved, ideas abandoned, projects untouched because you couldn't make them perfect? In the name of doing it right, you've done nothing at all. And the more you demand of yourself, the further you slip into the abyss of self-doubt. Because perfection, no matter how hard you chase it, will always be just out of reach. And in that chase, you're missing the point. The truth is, growth doesn't happen in the pursuit of perfection. It happens in the mess. It happens when you're willing to take imperfect action, when you're willing to fail and try again. Success isn't built on flawless performance. It's built on the courage to keep going, even when things aren't perfect. So what if, instead of aiming for perfection, you aimed for progress? What if you gave yourself permission to be imperfect, to stumble, to fall, to rise again? In that messy, imperfect process, you'll find the true path to growth. Have you ever felt the weight of ambition in your chest, but couldn't shake the feeling that wanting more was somehow wrong? That quiet voice, creeping in the back of your mind, whispering that your desires, your dreams, your goals are selfish? That maybe, just maybe, the pursuit of something greater, something more fulfilling, is a betrayal of the life you already have. It's a strange kind of guilt, isn't it? The guilt that comes when you realize you want something more than what you currently have, but that desire feels like a crime. For many, ambition isn't celebrated, it's burdened with judgment. Maybe it's your family's voice, telling you to be content with what you have. Perhaps it's cultural conditioning, where striving for more is seen as greedy, or maybe it's a deep-seated belief that your worth is tied to others' approval. Whatever it is, the guilt is suffocating. It lingers in every decision, casting a shadow over every aspiration. The desire for success becomes tainted with shame, and you start to question your right to want something better. The truth is, guilt over ambition often stems from an underlying belief that you don't deserve more, that success is for other people, people who are somehow better or more deserving than you. And the deeper you go into this belief, the more you find yourself shrinking. You hold back, you settle. Because if you really chased your dreams, you might be labeled as selfish, as ungrateful, or as unworthy of the success you seek. But what if this guilt is nothing more than a trap? A trap that convinces you to settle for less than you deserve. What if, instead of seeing ambition as a burden, you could see it as a natural force within you, a force that drives you to become the best version of yourself? The tension here isn't just between you and your goals. It's between you and your belief in your own worth. When did ambition stop feeling like a natural, human desire and start feeling like a betrayal? Maybe it's because you've been conditioned to think that success comes with a price, that wanting more is a sign of ingratitude. But here's the painful truth. By holding back, you are denying yourself the opportunity to grow, to thrive, and to fully embrace your potential. Imagine what would happen if you could free yourself from this guilt. What if you stopped apologizing for your ambition? What if you stopped shrinking and instead allowed yourself to rise? The world needs people who dare to dream, people who push beyond their limits, and you are no exception. It's time to shed the guilt, to let go of the belief that your ambition makes you wrong. Because your dreams are not a crime, they are a call to become who you were always meant to be. There's a feeling that lurks beneath every ambition, every dream, and every step you take towards something greater. It's a quiet, insidious voice that tells you you're not enough. It's the nagging fear that, no matter how hard you try, you'll never be worthy of success, happiness, or even love. Shame doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to be loud or overt. It simply wraps itself around you, weaving its way into every corner of your life, making you question your every move. And it convinces you that you, just as you are inherently flawed. Do you know that feeling? That overwhelming sense that no matter how much you achieve or how hard you work, something is still missing. Something deep inside tells you that you'll never be good enough. You carry that weight, quietly, every single day. It's the fear that if people truly saw who you were, they'd walk away. It's the belief that your flaws, your imperfections, disqualify you from having everything you want. So, you hide your true self, your real potential, because somewhere deep down, you believe that if you don't prove you're worthy, you'll be exposed for the fraud you feel like you are. But here's the cruel irony of shame. It keeps you stuck. It paralyzes you, not because you're truly incapable, but because you're convinced you aren't enough. You start to make decisions based on this deep-seated belief. You procrastinate because you fear that what you create won't measure up. You hold back in relationships because you're terrified of being seen as unworthy of love. And every time you pull back from your dreams, shame wins. It convinces you that staying small is safer than putting yourself out there, where you might be judged, rejected, or, worse, exposed as not being enough. Where does this feeling come from? It's not something you were born with. It's something that's been shaped over time through childhood experiences, societal expectations, and the harsh judgments you've internalized. Maybe it was a teacher's dismissive comment, a parent's disappointed gaze, or the subtle message from society that only certain people are allowed to succeed. These moments, whether they were big or small, planted seeds of doubt in your mind, whispering that you had to prove your worth at every turn. The more you feed into this belief, the more it grows. But can you truly move forward when you're constantly carrying the weight of not being enough? Can you ever chase your dreams with conviction if you're still trapped in the belief that you don't deserve them? The first step toward freedom is recognizing that shame is not truth. It's a story you've been told, a false narrative that's held you back for far too long. The truth is, you are worthy of everything you desire. You do not need to prove your worth to anyone, least of all to yourself. It's time to let go of the weight of shame. It's time to release the belief that you're flawed and unworthy. Because once you can shed this belief, you will step into your full potential. You are enough, right now, just as you are. Imagine a moment when you finally stop fighting yourself, when the harsh inner critic falls silent, and you can simply be, no longer caught in the cycle of shoulds and musts, no longer haunted by the weight of expectations. You find a profound sense of peace. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? To just accept where you are, as you are, without the constant need for validation, perfection, or change. But what if this is the key to everything you've been searching for? What if the very thing that holds you back, your inability to accept yourself fully, was the root of all your struggles? For so long, you've been taught that growth requires change, that you need to fix something, improve something, become something else to be worthy. But what if the real change starts not with fixing, but with accepting? Not with pushing away your imperfections, but embracing them as part of who you are. This is where true transformation begins, not in the rejection of your emotions, your mistakes, or your flaws, but in making peace with them. There's a freedom in acceptance that you can't find anywhere else. It's the freedom to stop battling against yourself. You don't need to wait until you're better to be worthy of love, success, or happiness. You are worthy right now, imperfections, mistakes, and all. The truth is, your imperfections are not your weakness, they're part of your strength. The very things you've been running from are the things that hold the potential for your growth. When you stop fighting the fear, the guilt, and the shame that have been shaping your decisions, something incredible happens. You begin to move not from a place of trying to escape, but from a place of peace. You stop hiding from your emotions, from your flaws, from the truth of who you are. And in that space of acceptance, you unlock something powerful. You begin to take real, actionable steps toward your goals, not because you're perfect, but because you've allowed yourself to be human. This isn't about giving up. It's about letting go of the need to be perfect before you act. It's about finding the strength to move forward despite your flaws, and perhaps because of them. The real work, the real progress, comes when you stop punishing yourself for being imperfect, when you finally accept that imperfection is not failure, it's part of being human. So, where do you begin? Start by acknowledging the truth of where you are, without judgment. Look at your emotions, your fears, and your mistakes not as flaws, but as pieces of the puzzle that is you. Embrace them, not as weaknesses, but as the fuel for your growth. When you accept yourself, truly accept yourself, everything changes. The cycle of self-sabotage ends, the chains of guilt and fear loosen, and the door to your true potential swings wide open. For years, You've lived your life according to a script. It's not one you wrote, but one that was handed to you. It's filled with stories of fear, inadequacy, guilt, and shame. Every setback, every failure, every mistake was written into your narrative as evidence of your limitations. You've been playing a role in your own life, one that keeps you trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and inaction. And for so long, you've believed that this is the story you have to live. But here's the thing. This is not your final draft. You are the author, and it's time to rewrite your story. The power of transformation lies in the ability to shift from being a victim of your past to being the architect of your future. Every belief you hold, every pattern that has shaped your decisions, has been part of a narrative you've accepted as your truth. But what if the story you've been telling yourself isn't the whole truth? What if there's more to you than the limitations that you've imposed on yourself? What if you're not defined by your past mistakes, your old fears, or the judgments of others? Take a moment and reflect. Think about the beliefs you've carried for years. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. I'm not worthy of success. These beliefs are the characters that have populated your story, guiding your actions and decisions, often leading you down paths of self-sabotage. But what would happen if you questioned these beliefs? What would happen if you saw them for what they truly are, not truths, but old stories, outdated scripts that no longer serve you? The tension here is profound. It's the battle between the old story and the new one. The old story says, you're stuck. It says you're too damaged, too flawed, to ever change. The new story, though, is one of power. It's a story where you take control, where your emotions no longer bind you, but fuel you. It's a story where you acknowledge your past, not as a chain, but as a stepping stone. You see the failures not as proof of your inadequacy, but as lessons that have prepared you for something greater. So, what if you could let go of the old story? What if you could stop believing that your past defines you and start seeing it as just one chapter of a much bigger narrative? Who would you be if you embraced your mistakes, your imperfections, and your growth as part of the journey, instead of the end of it? The power to rewrite your story lies within you. It's not about erasing the past, it's about reframing it. It's about taking back control and recognizing that you are the one who gets to decide who you are and where you're going. Every day is a new page, and it's time to fill it with a narrative that empowers you. So, ask yourself, what does the next chapter of your life look like? It's yours to write. You've come so far. You've looked into the shadows, faced your deepest fears, and discovered the emotional forces that have been sabotaging your progress. You've confronted guilt, shame, and the false narrative of perfection. You've learned the power of acceptance and the transformative potential of rewriting your story. But now, there's one question left to ask. Are you ready to move forward? Understanding your emotions is one thing. It's powerful, it's enlightening, but it's only the first step. The real challenge, the one that will determine your future, is whether you can take action. Because the truth is, nothing changes unless you move. Growth doesn't happen in the mind alone, it happens in the real world. It happens when you take what you've learned and put it into practice. It happens when you step out of the comfort of understanding and step into the unknown. There is always a moment of hesitation, the lingering fear, the thought that you're not quite ready, the worry that you might fail, that your emotions might take control again. But here's what you need to understand. That fear, that hesitation, will always be there. It's part of the process. You will never feel completely ready. And if you wait for the perfect moment, you'll be waiting forever. The only thing standing between you and your goals is your courage to begin. The courage to take the first step, to act despite the fear, despite the lingering doubts. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. It doesn't need to be perfect. But it must be a step forward, one that propels you into the future you desire. Do you remember the first time you dreamed big, when the thought of success filled you with excitement, not fear? That was your true self speaking, the person you are when you are free from the chains of guilt, shame, and perfectionism. That person is still inside you, waiting for the moment when you finally say, I am ready. And when you take that step, you'll see that the world doesn't collapse. In fact, the world will open up to you in ways you never imagined. The first step is always the hardest. But once you take it, momentum will carry you forward. The fear will diminish, the doubt will lessen, and the path will become clearer. The truth is, the future you want is waiting for you on the other side of fear. You've already done the hardest part, confronting the emotional barriers that have held you back. Now, it's time to act. To trust yourself. To trust that you are worthy of success, worthy of fulfillment, worthy of the life you've always dreamed of. It's time to take the leap,